Welcome to my channel Starlight Sci-Fi Stories. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The emergency alert sounded at 2:47 hours, piercing the silence of the remote orbital station. Eric Kellen was already awake, though not by choice. Insomnia had become a constant companion since he volunteered for the Outer Rim Starforge station. He rubbed his eyes and reached for the comm. "Eric Kellen," he said, his voice steady despite the fatigue. "Eric, it's Commander Rava. We've got a situation," the voice crackled back. "The Drellian vessel Stormbreaker has limped into the docking bay. Severe hull damage, reactor instability, and multiple system failures. You're the only engineer on station cleared for alien tech. We need you immediately." Eric's stomach tightened. The Drellians were notoriously proud and secretive. Their ships weren't designed for human hands, let alone repairs in a frontier station. But the urgency in Rava's voice left no room for hesitation. "I'm on my way," he replied. By the time he arrived at the docking bay, the scene was worse than he had imagined. The Stormbreaker was a warship, but it looked as if it had fought its way through a dozen battles in a single day. Scorch marks ran along the hull, and jagged tears in the plating exposed the inner framework. The hum of unstable power cores made the floor vibrate slightly beneath his feet. The Drellian crew waited, their tall, sinewy forms slumped in exhaustion. Their ceremonial armor was battered and scorched. At their center, a single figure stood straight and unflinching. Commander Rava, whose rank insignia glinted in the dim light, exuded authority. Her voice, when she spoke, was calm but carried an edge that brooked no nonsense. "You are the engineer?" she asked, eyes sharp. "I am," Eric said, holding up his portable diagnostic scanner. "I need full access to your ship systems, all damage reports, and cooperation from your crew. How long until your reactor fails completely?" Rava's expression darkened. "Less than 48 hours. We couldn't reach the nearest shipyard in time, and the core won't last the trip. You are our only chance." Eric nodded. "Then let's get started. I'll need complete data feeds and clearance for any system I touch." For the next 6 hours, he did nothing but diagnostics. Every panel, conduit, and system was examined. The Drellian crew watched him skeptically, whispering amongst themselves. Humans weren't supposed to understand their intricate energy systems. Yet Eric's years of study in xenotech engineering gave him insights that others could only guess at. "Your reactor coolant channels are damaged but not beyond repair," he said, finally looking up. "Your navigation array isn't malfunctioning. It's just not receiving clean power. Hull reinforcements in sectors 12 through 15 are compromised because of sudden power surges during combat." A Drellian engineer gasped. "We spent days diagnosing these problems. How?" "Because I've studied alien systems extensively," Eric said, "and I understand the principles. Energy flow, matter interactions, structural harmonics. Fix the fundamentals first and the rest becomes manageable." Rava studied him silently, then nodded. "You will have full access. My crew will follow your instructions, but understand this. Our technology is sensitive. One misstep, and it's not just your life that will be at risk." "I understand," he said, "and I'll work without interference. Let's save your ship first. Everything else comes later." Hours blurred into one another as Eric worked through the night. The reactor's core was the first priority. Replacement parts weren't available. Instead, Eric designed a bypass system, integrating human-standard plasma conduits into Drellian circuitry. By every known protocol, it shouldn't have worked. Yet, through careful calibration and energy harmonics, the reactor stabilized. The lights steadied. Panels hummed with precise efficiency. The Drellians could only watch, all replacing skepticism. "Impossible," muttered one engineer. "Not impossible," Eric corrected gently. "Just a matter of understanding the flow. Species doesn't matter when physics is constant." With the reactor stabilized, he moved to navigation systems. Power routing had to be adjusted carefully. A single miscalculation could render the ship adrift or worse. Hours later, the array was online, precise, and responsive. "Your focus is remarkable," Rava observed quietly, standing behind him as he worked. Eric didn't look up. Focus keeps people alive. Mistakes cost lives. Fear or distraction has no place here. The Drellian crew began to see not only his skill but his attitude. He treated their technology with respect, not fear or arrogance. He explained when asked, integrated their input but never stopped to seek approval. That approach, rare among humans, commanded respect. By day 3, structural reinforcements were underway. Eric designed temporary support struts to hold critical sectors in place, preventing further stress. Then, he began permanent repairs, welding alien alloys with precision and patience. Halfway through the 4th day, disaster struck. A vital energy matrix failed during testing, threatening a reactor cascade. Eric had less than 10 minutes to respond. Hands flying over the tools, he combined human and Drellian tech in a hybrid solution. Plasma regulators, energy dampeners, and stabilizers worked in tandem, something previously considered incompatible. The matrix stabilized. The crew's collective gasp was audible. "You solved it," Rava said quietly, voice tight with disbelief. "I did my job," Eric said simply. "No," she said, her voice firmer now. "You did more than your job. You demonstrated competence, integrity, and calm under pressure. That is exceptional." Eric returned to his work, unaware of how closely she observed or how impressed she was. By the 5th day, every system, every conduit, and every hull section had been repaired or improved. The Stormbreaker wasn't just functional, it was superior to its original specifications. Efficiency, stability, and safety exceeded standard military benchmarks. "You're cleared for departure," Eric announced to the crew. "Your ship is better than new, take care of her." The Drellians exchanged glances. Then, Rava's voice, carrying a weight he hadn't heard before, called him. "Engineer Kellen, attend me in the command quarters. There are matters to discuss." Eric followed, expecting discussion of technical details or compensation. Instead, Rava removed her helmet, revealing a regal presence he hadn't anticipated. Her face bore the markings of the Drellian sovereign line, ornate, precise, and unmistakably royal. "I am Rava Thalkura, High Commander and heir to the Drellian throne," she said calmly. "You have worked on my ship with no regard for status, no desire to impress. That is valuable beyond measure." Eric's mind raced. I didn't realize. You treated me as a commander, not a queen. You respected my crew, solved impossible problems, and demonstrated integrity. That is why you are here." She stepped closer. "I am proposing a partnership, not merely professional but personal. You have proven qualities I seek in an equal and trusted partner." Eric blinked, processing the implications. His entire life, he had solved problems, fixed machines, and avoided political entanglements. Now, a Drellian heir, the future ruler, was proposing something beyond comprehension. I need to think," he finally said. "Take the time you need," Rava replied. "But know that my observation is thorough, my judgment deliberate, and my intent sincere." For the first time in days, Eric felt fear, not of failure but of the future. His routine, his carefully measured life of technical certainty, had been pulled into uncharted territory. Yet beneath the shock was a spark he could not ignore. He had faced impossible engineering, critical deadlines, and near-death scenarios, and prevailed. Perhaps he could navigate this challenge too. The next morning, he returned to the Stormbreaker. The crew greeted him with cautious respect, and Rava observed silently, her presence a constant reminder of stakes higher than technology. Eric spent the day calibrating systems, ensuring stability, and preparing for departure. Every fix reinforced his reputation. Every improvement earned the crew's cautious admiration. As night fell, he reflected on the week's events. He had fixed what many considered unfixable. He had worked alongside a species with skills beyond human comprehension, and he had been noticed not for fame, not for reward, but for the way he worked with honesty, focus, and respect. Somewhere in the depths of the station, Rava watched him, measuring more than skill. She measured character, resolve, and integrity, the traits that mattered when a ruler judged a potential partner. And Arik, unaware, continued his work, the fate of a warship, its crew, and perhaps something far greater resting on the hands of a human engineer in a distant corner of the galaxy. The stars outside glimmered with indifferent light, but inside the docking bay, a quiet revolution of competence, courage, and human determination was underway. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, only that he would face it as he always had, focused, prepared, and unwilling to compromise. The Stormbreaker would sail again, and perhaps so would Arik Kellen, into realms he had never dared to imagine. The Stormbreaker gleamed in the docking bay, a testament to human ingenuity and Drellian engineering. Arik Kellen moved through the corridors with practiced precision, checking diagnostics, inspecting reinforcements, and fine-tuning energy conduits. Each step he took was deliberate, each calculation precise. But this time, the stakes were higher than just stabilizing systems. Commander Rava had made her intentions clear. Her observation had not been casual. Her recognition of his competence and integrity carried a weight that Arik could not ignore. He still couldn't fully grasp the implications of her proposal, yet he focused on the task at hand. The ship's systems demanded attention, and the crew depended on him. By the morning of the second week, the Stormbreaker was operational, yet certain core systems required fine calibration. Arik worked alongside Drellian engineers, integrating human and alien methodologies. The crew, initially skeptical, now followed his instructions without hesitation, trusting his judgment implicitly. Reactor output is stable, but the auxiliary conduits are overloaded, Arik noted, adjusting a series of plasma regulators. We need to redistribute energy through secondary channels to prevent localized overheating. One engineer looked uneasy. Human regulators aren't designed for Drellian plasma flow. It might fail. Arik smiled faintly. They will work if we respect the principles. Input, output, energy equilibrium. It doesn't matter the species who built the components, only that the physics is sound. Hours later, the ship's systems hummed in perfect synchrony. Lights glowed steadily along the corridors, energy fields maintained perfect balance, and the navigation arrays responded to the slightest input with precision. Arik's modifications had not only repaired but improved the Stormbreaker. Rava watched silently, appearing in doorways, observing without interference. Her presence had become a constant, subtle reminder that the human engineer was being evaluated for more than skill. Yet she spoke rarely, allowing him to work uninterrupted. During a pause in diagnostics, Arik approached her. "Your ship is fully operational. We've improved stability by nearly 10%. Efficiency is optimized. If nothing else goes wrong, you'll leave this station with one of the safest vessels in Drellian history." Rava nodded, her expression unreadable. "Impressive, but what concerns me now is the upcoming mission. You've worked with us, but you've never seen the reality of Drellian conflict." Arik raised an eyebrow. "You mean combat?" "Yes," she said, voice steady. "The Stormbreaker was ambushed near the Veil Nebula. You repaired what was damaged, but we must ensure you understand the operational risks if we venture into contested space again." He considered her words. The ship was fully functional, but the dangers outside the station were not. "Then I'll observe and learn," he said simply. "Knowledge helps prevent mistakes." Rava allowed a brief, approving smile. "Good. You understand that life here depends on more than tools. Strategy, quick thinking, and courage are essential. You've shown competence and calm under pressure, qualities that are rare even among Drellian officers." Later that evening, Eric moved to inspect the reactor. A subtle fluctuation in plasma resonance caught his attention. He adjusted the conduits carefully, measuring output, and realized a latent instability in one sector of the reactor core. Though minor, it could have catastrophic effects if left unchecked during combat maneuvers. He worked silently through the night, recalibrating energy matrices and reinforcing conduits. Each adjustment required meticulous attention. A single miscalculation could trigger a catastrophic cascade. Hours passed, the corridor lights flickering slightly as the energy flow realigned under his guidance. Rava observed from a distance. "You never cease to surprise me, Eric Kellen," she said softly when he finally paused. "I do what I must," he replied, not looking up. "Failure isn't an option." By the third week, the ship systems were not only repaired but enhanced. Shields could withstand higher energy loads. Weapon systems responded faster. Life support systems were optimized for long-term sustainability. Eric's blend of human engineering and Drellian understanding had created a vessel that exceeded the original specifications. The crew began treating him not just as a visiting engineer, but as a valued member of their team. Even the most skeptical officers acknowledged his insight and calm problem-solving abilities. The sense of respect was tangible, though Eric remained humble, focused entirely on the work rather than accolades. Then came the first field test. The Stormbreaker left the station orbit, moving into open space for a series of maneuvers designed to assess the repairs. Eric manned the engineering station, monitoring reactor output, shield alignment, and power distribution. The ship responded flawlessly. "Power system stable," he reported. "Auxiliary channels compensating for peak loads. Hull stress below operational limits. Weapons and navigation systems fully synchronized." Rava's expression was sharp, but her eyes held something more: approval, perhaps even trust. "Excellent. This performance exceeds expectations. You've done more than repair. You've improved survivability." A sudden alert interrupted the moment. Sensors detected a fast-moving vessel approaching from the Veil Nebula, scanning them aggressively. Eric's heart quickened. A Drellian patrol ship, or worse, a hostile raider. "Unknown vessel, high velocity, approaching intercept vector," Eric announced. "Reactor and shields ready. I recommend evasive protocols if necessary." Rava's command was calm, decisive. "Prepare for possible engagement. Maintain course and alert the crew." The tension was palpable. The crew braced, hands hovering over controls, eyes fixed on their instruments. Eric adjusted shield matrices in real time, optimizing power flow to maintain maximum defensive output. The unknown ship's trajectory intersected theirs, then suddenly altered course. Scans revealed a human freighter, stranded in a debris field, drifting toward a nearby gravity well. Eric exhaled slowly. The threat had been misidentified, but the tension had tested both the ship and the crew. "Systems handled flawlessly," he noted. "All adjustments within safety parameters." Rava allowed a faint smile. "You handled the unknown with composure. That is precisely the skill I value." As the Stormbreaker continued its trials, Eric reflected on the week's events. He had entered this mission expecting only technical challenges, but he had been tested in unforeseen ways. Human ingenuity, discipline, and integrity had earned him the respect of a species renowned for excellence. More importantly, he had demonstrated that competence and honesty could bridge gaps even between species. When they returned to orbit, Rava summoned him to her quarters. The moment was quiet, the hum of the ship the only background noise. "You've proven yourself, Eric Kellen," she said. "Not just in skill, but in character. You've earned the trust of my crew, and I believe my confidence as well." He hesitated. You mean the partnership you proposed?" "Yes," she replied. "I observed your work, your decisions, your integrity under pressure. I see someone who can think critically, act decisively, and remain steadfast even in uncertainty. Those qualities are invaluable, not just professionally but personally." Eric struggled to find words. His life had been built on systems, calculations, and measurable outcomes. Now he was faced with a decision governed by trust, respect, and something far less quantifiable: human connection. I don't know what to say," he admitted finally. "Everything I've done was to save your ship and protect your crew. I never expected this." "Nor did I," Rava said softly, stepping closer. "But that is precisely why your actions matter. You were authentic. You were honest. You were focused on the work itself, not the prestige or the position. That is rare, and that is why I chose you." Eric took a deep breath, considering. His mind raced through the implications. Life with Rava would mean navigating Drellian politics, customs, and expectations. It would mean leaving his quiet routines behind, stepping into a world governed by complexity far beyond engineering manuals. Yet beneath the fear was a spark of something compelling, a chance to be valued for who he was, not just what he could do. "I accept," he said finally. "I'll commit to the partnership to see where this leads. I can't predict the future, but I can be present and honest and do my best." Rava's expression softened, a rare warmth breaking through her regal composure. "Then we proceed as partners. You will learn the ways of my people, and I will respect the boundaries of your experience. Together, we face what comes next." The weeks that followed were a lesson in adaptation. Eric learned formal protocols, customs, and the delicate balance of Drellian court life. He applied his analytical mind to social systems, recognizing patterns, inputs, and consequences. Where others saw politics as chaotic, he approached it like a complex system to be understood and navigated with integrity. Rava remained patient, guiding him, answering questions and trusting his judgment. Together, they formed a unique partnership, one built not on hierarchy or status, but on mutual respect, shared competence, and honesty. Months passed, and the Stormbreaker continued to operate at peak efficiency under Eric's watchful eye. The Drellian fleet recognized his contributions, and whispers of the human engineer who had earned the confidence of their future ruler spread throughout the stars. Yet for Eric, the greatest reward was not recognition or status, it was trust. The acknowledgement that his work, his focus, and his integrity could transcend species, hierarchy, and expectation. He had proven that a human, with determination and respect for principles, could shape outcomes in ways others deemed impossible. One evening, as the twin suns of the nearby system dipped below the horizon, Rava approached him quietly. "You have changed more than just the ship, Eric Kellen," she said softly. "You have changed the perception of humans among my people, and perhaps, in small ways, even changed me." Eric smiled faintly. "I just fixed what I could. The rest is up to us together." She nodded, eyes reflecting the dying light. "Together, then, in work, in life, and in whatever comes next." For the first time in weeks, Eric felt a sense of calm that had nothing to do with calculations or energy matrices. The impossible had been achieved, both in the repair of a warship and in the forging of a bond built on competence, trust, and respect. Above them, the stars shimmered, indifferent yet eternal. Below, the Stormbreaker rested, a testament to human ingenuity and the unyielding spirit of those who dared to reach beyond their limits. And Eric Kellen, engineer, observer, and now partner to a Drellian heir, knew that his life had changed forever, and that the galaxy itself had witnessed the quiet triumph of competence, courage, and humanity. The future awaited, uncertain and vast, but for the first time he faced it not with fear, but with resolve, and the knowledge that skill, integrity, and respect could forge outcomes beyond imagination.